Captain Henry Harrock, a name whispered with disgust and fear. His legacy, a dark stain on the pages of history, is one of treachery and greed. He was a man of insatiable greed, a plantation owner in Morant Bay, Jamaica. His wealth was built on the backs of the enslaved, his fortune soaked in the sweat and blood of those he oppressed. He promised freedom, a lie veiled in false kindness. His words were honeyed, but his heart was cold and calculating. He saw the desperation in their eyes and exploited it for his gain. Makro, a proud warrior from Coromantee, believed him. Makro, a man of honor and strength, saw hope in Harrock's deceitful promise. He envisioned a future where his people could live free, unshackled from the chains of oppression. He led his people into the ship's belly, a ship that promised freedom, a ship that delivered them to chains. The air was thick with the stench of despair, the cries of the betrayed echoing in the dark, cramped hold. Harrock's betrayal cut deep. He ripped families apart, sold them like cattle. The market was a scene of chaos and heartbreak, children torn from their mothers, husbands from their wives. The bonds of family shattered by Harrock's greed. Among them were Makro, his pregnant wife Amri, and their loyal friend, Kwashi. Their dreams of freedom turned to ashes, their future uncertain and bleak. The stench of betrayal filled the air, thick and heavy like the coming storm. The skies darkened, mirroring the despair in their hearts. The storm was a harbinger of the turmoil that lay ahead. The cries of the enslaved echoed across the water, their pain, a symphony of agony. Each cry a testament to the cruelty they endured, each tear a silent plea for justice. Harrock cared nothing for their suffering. He saw only profit. He saw only power. His heart was as cold as the coins he counted, his soul as dark as the shadows that surrounded him. He would soon learn the price of his treachery, for the seeds of rebellion were already sown. The whispers of revolt grew louder, the fire of resistance kindled in their hearts, and they would bear fruit in the heart of a child yet to be born, a child who would carry the legacy of their struggle, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. The sun set on their suffering, but a new dawn of resistance was on the horizon. Makro, his spirit unbroken, refused to yield. He remembered his homeland, his people. He would not let Harrock extinguish his fire. He rallied his fellow captives. A whispered word, a shared glance. Resistance simmered beneath the surface. Then it erupted. Chaos engulfed the plantation. The whip, once a symbol of oppression, now lay shattered. Makro, a whirlwind of fury, fought with the strength of 10 men. But bravery alone could not overcome the planters' might. Guns blazed, cutting down the rebellion. Makro fell, riddled with bullets, his dream of freedom dying with him.
Amri, heavy with child, watched in horror. Her heart shattered. She swore revenge. She would not let Makro's sacrifice be in vain. Their child would be a testament to his memory, a flame that would never be extinguished.
Amri, fueled by grief and determination, endured. She toiled under the cruel Jamaican sun. Each day a struggle, each night a prayer. She carried Makro's legacy within her, a life pulsating with the rhythm of rebellion. Under the watchful eyes of the overseers, she gave birth. A boy. She named him Jack. Jack Mansong. A name whispered in hushed tones, a beacon of hope for the enslaved.
Life on the plantation was harsh, but Amri instilled in Jack the stories of his father, tales of courage, of resistance, of a homeland lost but never forgotten. She taught him to read, a dangerous skill for a slave. Knowledge, she believed, was power, and power was the only way to break free.
Jack Mansong forged in the fire of hatred.
I grew strong under the relentless Caribbean sun. My body, hardened by labor, possessed an untamed spirit. My eyes, burning with a fierce intelligence, saw the injustice around me. I heard the cries of my people, felt the sting of the whip on my own back.
He learned to fight, first with his fists, then with whatever he could scavenge. A broken bottle, a rusty nail, he became a shadow, a whisper of defiance in the night.
I loathed Captain Harrock, the man who had stolen my father's life, who treated us like animals. Hatred burned in my heart, a raging fire that threatened to consume me.
But I, Amri, wise and weathered, guided him, taught him to channel his anger, to turn it into a weapon, for the day of reckoning was coming.
Rebellion, Jack Mansong's daring escape?
The night was alive with the chirping of crickets. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified in the stillness. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what was to come. The moon, a silver sliver in the sky, hung like a silent sentinel, casting an ethereal glow over the landscape. It was both a beacon and a betrayer, illuminating the path but also exposing any movement. Cast long shadows across the plantation, the moonlight painted a haunting picture of the world Jack was about to leave behind. The familiar fields and buildings looked ghostly, almost otherworldly in the pale light. My heart was pounding as I gathered my courage. Tonight was the night, the culmination of months of planning, of stolen moments and whispered conversations. Every fiber of my being was focused on this one goal: the night I would escape, the night I would reclaim my freedom, the night I would defy the chains that had bound me for so long.
He had planned carefully. Every step, every turn, every possible obstacle had been considered. The route was etched into his mind, a mental map that he had traced over and over again. Every detail etched into his mind. The guard shifts, the weak points in the fence, the hidden paths through the jungle. Nothing was left to chance. He slipped through the darkness, a shadow among shadows. His movements were swift and silent, honed by years of practice and necessity. His movements swift and silent. Each step was deliberate, each breath controlled. The night was his ally, cloaking him in its embrace. He reached the overseer's quarters, the final barrier between him and freedom. His heart a drum in his chest, each beat a reminder of what was at stake. His heart a drum in his chest, the fear, the anticipation, the hope, all mingled together in a symphony of emotions.
I found Captain Harrock asleep, his face twisted in a grimace. The man who had been the source of so much pain and suffering, now vulnerable and unaware. His face twisted in a grimace. Even in sleep he seemed tormented, as if haunted by the ghosts of his own actions. For a moment I hesitated. The years of hatred threatened to overwhelm me. The urge to exact revenge was strong. But I knew that my freedom was more important. The years of hatred threatened to overwhelm me. The memories of the whippings, the endless labor, the loss of friends and family all surged to the surface. But I had a purpose, a higher calling. My escape was not just for me, but for all those who had suffered and continued to suffer. I had to succeed.
He gagged the captain, bound him tightly, ensuring that he would not raise the alarm. It was a necessary precaution, one that would buy him precious time, and took what he needed most: a map, a lifeline that would guide him through the treacherous terrain ahead, a compass to keep him on course, and a gun for protection. These were his tools of survival, his keys to freedom. As the first rays of dawn kissed the horizon, the world began to stir. The jungle came alive with the sounds of birds and animals, a stark contrast to the silence of the night. Jack vanished into the dense jungle, each step taking him further from his past and closer to his future. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was his to walk.
I was free. The realization hit me like a wave, overwhelming and exhilarating, but my fight was far from over. The journey ahead was long and fraught with danger, but I was ready. But my fight was far from over. The road to true freedom was long, but with each step I was reclaiming my life, my identity, and my destiny.
The Jamaican wilderness became Jack's sanctuary. The dense foliage and the vibrant greenery provided a stark contrast to the harsh realities he had fled from. Each step he took deeper into the forest felt like a step towards freedom, away from the chains that once bound him. He sought refuge in its verdant embrace. The forest was not just a hiding place. It was a living, breathing entity that welcomed him with open arms. The rustling leaves whispered secrets of the past, and the gentle breeze carried promises of a future unshackled. The towering trees of Mount Lebanus, ancient and wise, offered him shelter. These trees had stood for centuries, witnessing the passage of time and the stories of countless souls. Their roots ran deep, anchoring Jack to the land and its history. Birdsong replaced the crack of the whip. The melodies of the forest creatures became a symphony of hope, drowning out the echoes of his past torment. Each chirp and call was a reminder that he was no longer a prisoner, but a free man. The scent of freedom filled his lungs. The air was crisp and pure, a stark contrast to the suffocating atmosphere of his former life. With every breath, he inhaled the essence of liberation and exhaled the remnants of his captivity.
I knew I couldn't survive alone. I needed guidance, protection. The forest, though welcoming, was vast and filled with unknown dangers. I needed someone who understood its secrets, someone who could help me navigate this new world.
He sought out the Obeahman, a mystical figure revered and feared. The Obeahman was known throughout the land for his deep connection to the spiritual realm and his ability to harness the power of nature. A practitioner of ancient magic, a conduit to the spirit world. The Obeahman's rituals were said to bridge the gap between the physical and the ethereal, drawing upon the energies of the earth and the ancestors.
I, the Obeahman, with eyes filled with knowing, listened to Jack's story. His tale was one of pain and suffering, but also of resilience and determination. I could see the fire in his eyes, a burning desire for justice and freedom. I saw the fire in his heart, the thirst for justice. It was a flame that could not be extinguished, a beacon of hope that shone brightly even in the darkest of times. I performed a ritual, chanting ancient words, invoking the spirits of the land. The air around us seemed to hum with energy as I called upon the ancestors to guide and protect Jack on his journey. I gave him a talisman, a shark's tooth on a leather cord. This was no ordinary trinket. It was imbued with the strength and ferocity of the shark, a symbol of resilience and protection. It would protect him, guide him. The talisman was a physical manifestation of the spiritual bond between Jack and the forces of nature, a constant reminder that he was never truly alone.
The mountain became his fortress, the jungle, his ally. Together, they formed an impenetrable barrier against those who sought to harm him. The land itself seemed to rise in his defense, offering its strength and wisdom. He was no longer just Jack Mansong. He had transformed, evolved into something greater. The trials he had faced had forged him into a symbol of resistance and hope. He was a force of nature, a spirit of rebellion. His very presence was a testament to the indomitable human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, freedom and justice could prevail.